Good morning, everybody. Enter the stars. Today's show is going to be about the numbers surrounding President Trump and how the 2004 Resident Evil film called Apocalypse foreshadowed the Kahuna Cyrus, is what we're going to start calling it, and its presidency. Now, Snopes even took the time to cover this Resident Evil film, noting that people such as myself saw some pretty bizarre metaphors that seemed to be unexplained. Here's the Snopes article here, and of course I don't believe Snopes, but it's interesting because in their false accusation of the claim, they actually admit some things in this article here, dated January 29, 2020. Is the Umbrella Corporation logo oddly similar to the Wu-Tang Biotech Labs? For one, they're showing that this particular logo is the same. The only difference is that this is in Shanghai, not Wu-Tang. Okay, so, I mean, that's just bizarre. Why would this Chinese company pick this logo, knowing the history of what was going on? So, of course, this is the Umbrella Corps logo from the film Resident Evil. Snopes also acknowledges that when you take the word raccoon, it becomes an anagram of kahuna. So all of this is in the article. And this logo is an 8-sided umbrella within an 8-sided hexagon. Okay? So there's 8 and 8. Here's the image here of the actors from the film. 8-sided umbrella within an 8-sided hexagon, which brings us to the number 88. Now this goes deeper. The film released on September 10th. Now get this, and let this sink in for a minute. Here's the release date of the film, September 10th. As you can see right here. And that just so happens to be 88 days after Trump's 58th birthday. What, Casey? That's crazy. Here it is right here. Here's the time and date-to-date calculator. This film released 88 days after his birthday. His birthday's on June 14th, 9/10, and there's your 88 days. Now, this was after his 58th birthday. Now remember, Mar-a-Lago has 58 rooms. Trump Tower has 58 stories. We covered how those two buildings are twin buildings. There's other synchronicities between those buildings too, which we'll get into. But he purchased both of those for a reason. They became twin buildings. Now, I could end the show now, and this would be a show, but there's much, much more to this than meets the eye. The film opens with a weather forecast of 92 degrees. Let me play this montage for you. Here you see the 777.
You're watching Raccoon 7, and now the latest weather with
Terry Morales. Look and listen to the numbers. Now, the city that you're seeing in the background from Resident Evil Apocalypse is Toronto, Canada.
Terry Morales.
It's 6:10 in the a.m. and
It's 6:10 in the a.m. Look at the 62 and the 92, and note that Trump's office in Trump Tower is on the 26th floor. Now, I superimposed the city of Wu-Tang onto this map that the film opens with, and as you can see, there are some stark similarities.
already the temperature has reached a massive...
Not so much with the river, but with the landscape. Look at the roads and how that focus on the split. And you can almost see the exact, it's almost as if they used the Wu-Tang City map. This was in 2004. Look at this. This is unbelievable. So take the river out of Wu-Tang and just look at the background, and you can see it's very, very similar. Even down to this lake. See that triangular lake right here? There's a lake here that's triangular too. It's all there.
Already the temperature has reached a massive 92 degrees as
92, 62, 29, 26. 6 is 9.
this unprecedented heat wave continues. Clear skies in Raccoon City.
Now, this is the hive entrance. And what I believe this is code for is HIV. Another virus, right? Watch.
And a light breeze coming in from the west. And a special bonus
Coming in from the west. California has the most cases. The west.
just for you. We have a pollen count of
0.7 pollen count. You saw the American flag. This is all about America, right? 77. Let's keep going.
of 0.
Now, this bridge that they come across is very interesting because this wall is called the Veil of Something. On this bridge coming into Toronto, those of you that live in Toronto or in Canada know about this bridge. They put this up to prevent people from suiciding themselves. Here's the problem. Even though they put this up, people found other ways to kill themselves. The suicide rate did not go down in Toronto just because they put up this veil of whatever they called it, which is a weird name within itself. Let's keep watching. This is the opening of the film. Ravensgate Bridge, they call it in the film. I forget the actual name of the bridge. It's not called Ravensgate Bridge in real life, but this is interesting nonetheless. They're doing an extraction. This is the main entrance to Raccoon City.
They're stars. Special tactics and rescue squad. They're the best.
Stars.
Now this is weird because this STARS team is basically the remnants of the police force that was left in Raccoon City. There's the elite police force. They're called the STARS, and as you just saw, it stands for Special Tactics and Rescue Squad. And this guy is Nemesis, and he's a super soldier. Okay, he was infected with this virus, and I believe what STARS really stands for is SARS.
Stars. Special tactics and rescue squad. They're the best.
Stars.
He found a way to make.
Now here is the T virus, which in the film causes the infection. And what you're going to note is that it's got this triangle that he draws on this with his computer. And if you look at the different nodes on the Kahuna Cyrus, you'll see that it has triangular nodes.
The T virus.
So I did a side by side here so you can actually see what I'm talking about.
Found a way to make me stronger.
The T virus.
Now, remember at the beginning of the show, we mentioned that the film released 88 days after Trump's 58th birthday? Well, there's another 88 that appears in the film, of course. It's on the zombie's sweatshirt in yellow and black. The beehive. Unbelievable. Now, you're starting to see how
64 straight convictions. 64 straight convictions.
Now that's from the Devil's Advocate. 8 times 8, of course, is 64. Okay? So that's exactly what 8 and 8 really means. And this is from the Devil's Advocate. This, of course, is Al Pacino, who played Roy Cohn, as well as the Devil. Roy Cohn was Trump's mentor. He also played the Devil in the Devil's Advocate. And he talks about the number 64 as being a number. What a number. Let's play it.
64 straight convictions. 64 straight convictions. What a number! What a number!
I like to be in court.
So, obviously, 64 is a number that is coded because it is 8 times 8. And that brings us full circle back to Trump, who was born in the opposite of 64, which is 46, 1946. His Trump Tower is 664 feet tall. There's your 64. Remember, 8 times 8 is 64. And that's the end of the montage that I put together for you from Resident Evil Apocalypse. Now let's take a look at some of these specs. So, we have basically this 664 foot tall Trump Tower. Let me pull that tab up here so you guys can see this. Where'd it go? Here we go. And here it is, 664 feet. So as you can see, let's blow this up. This actually encodes the number 64, which of course is 8 times 8, but it also encodes the number 66. Why? Because the penthouse floor is on the 66th floor. Okay? So there's your 66. Now, Casey, you just told us that the Trump Tower has 58 floors. It does have 58 floors, but the way they're numbered, he numbered it so that his penthouse would be on the 66th floor. So that right there should tell you something. Now, it's weird because inside of Trump's 66th floor penthouse is Apollo, Abaddon, a bad dawn. And it just so happens that the last book of the Bible is the 66th book of the Bible of Revelation, which just so happens to talk about Abaddon. So, Abaddon, the end of the road, the last apartment, has the book of Revelation encoded within the painting in his penthouse. And by the way, his 66th floor penthouse was part of the filming of The Devil's Advocate, as we covered in a previous show. So, here you go, Revelation, the 66th book of the Bible. And what else do we have here? There's more to this. When you look at the book of Revelation, this is crazy. More 88 synchronicities with the book of Revelation. Now, I didn't discover this. Somebody else did. Revelation has 22 chapters and 404 total verses. Well, when you multiply that out, 404, here it is here, let's pull this up, times 22 chapters, that gives us a very bizarre number. I'll do the math right here on the screen for you, so you know I'm not making this up. 22 times 404. Remember, the number of chapters times the number of verses gives you the number 8,888. So now, hopefully all this is starting to sink in for you so that you understand the numbers behind this and how the Trump Tower has been encoded with this. But we're going to continue to break down this Trump Tower because there's more to it than that. As I said before, it starts with Abaddon, a bad dawn. And that particular verse is mentioned in Revelation 9:1:1. Abaddon, Revelation. Here it is right here. Revelation 9 and a 1 and a 1, whose name is Hebrew is Abaddon, which of course codes Donald Trump's first name. And we already told you in a previous show how Trump Tower has twin buildings, the Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago. 58 rooms at Mar-a-Lago, 58 stories at Trump Tower, 33 bathrooms at Mar-a-Lago, and according to Trump's own words, he says that his penthouse is 33,000 square feet. Let's take a look. This is dated 2017, just after he came into the presidency. And in this interview, he says the best apartment ever built. And he says that it's a mint size, 33,000 square feet. Now, if you aren't getting red flags all over the place in terms of Masonic references, I don't know what else people need to see about this. During the presidential race, Donald Trump left the campaign trail to give Forbes a guided tour of his 3-story Trump Tower penthouse, part of his decades-long crusade for a higher spot on the billionaire rankings. Gliding through his gilded home, he bragged that people have called the Manhattan Eyrie the best apartment ever built, and emphasized it's a mint-sized 33,000 square feet in value. I own the top 3 floors, the whole floor, times 3. He admitted to having once had a neighbor pointing to a door on the 66th floor. I leased that little section to Michael Jackson. I knew him better than anybody. Those comments were typical Trump, boastful and inaccurate. Now, of course, this is a left-leaning article, but shed away cognitive dissonance, ego, and just listen to the facts of what was told to this particular reporter, okay? He exaggerated the size of his own place by a factor of 3. Records show Trump acquiring 6,096 square foot triplex apartment, occupying sections of floors 66 through 68 around the time Trump opened in 1983. A decade later, he expanded his penthouse, merging parts of 2 neighboring apartments into his own home, according to the filings. The end result is 10,000, almost 11,000 square feet, not 33,000. But he probably had to say that because that's what you would say if you were a Mason, right? Also, there's Michael Jackson was apparently on a different floor than the 66th floor. And so that's what this article documents. Now, there's also something else to this, the 33. You will see here that one of the sides of Trump Tower actually encodes the 33 as well. We looked at the floor plan of this, but I'll show it to you now. It is I guess you can call this the back side. Let's pull it up. And there's 3 and 3. 3 and 3. So there's another 33 for you. So, by now, you're starting to see that Trump and numbers are very important. These numbers are very important to him. This is why I believe that this Apollo painting that he has, let's pull that up. Just above the fireplace mantle on the 66th floor is very important. You see, Apollo is Abaddon. The book of Revelation tells us, mentioned in the 66th book of the Bible, Revelation, the last floor, the last book. Could these be the last years of history? Now, let's break down this painting because there's much more to this painting. This is one of the original paintings. There are many replicas made of this painting. Here's the actual painting in his home, which has been identified as the Triumph of Apollo, or the Procession of Apollo. And this has been recreated many, many times throughout history. In this painting are elements that we're going to go over, which pretty much seals the deal. The luminous one, god of light, Apollo the sun, was called phosphorus demon. That means the light-bringing demon, Lucifer. Many scholars of the ancient text believe that Greek mythology involving powerful superhuman beings such as Zeus and Apollo are actually references to the same fallen angels mentioned throughout the Old Testament in the book of Enoch. In Genesis, the fallen are referred to as Nephilim, or sons of God, who came to earth and reproduced with humans. In the Jewish book of Enoch, these angels are mentioned as children of heaven, who went among the children of men to have children of their own. These events, according to the legend, were the cause of God casting those angels from heaven. Drump's penthouse in New York is a shrine to the Luminous One. Its center art piece is a copy after Guido Reni's fresco in the Casino dell'Aurora in the Palazzo Pallavicini in Rome. It was painted for Cardinal Scipione Borghese in 1614. It shows the passage of Apollo, the sun god's chariot, which is preceded by Aurora, the dawn, which is a play on words as well. Donald Trump and the dawn. He is the morning star, the dawn, who casts roses onto earth below. She is accompanied by an amaretto bearing a lighted torch, who has been identified as Phosphorus, a demon, the morning star, Lucifer. That's this little baby here carrying this torch. Now let's get into this. If you have any doubts, this is the Aurora Guido Reni, from which Drump's painting was copied. And there you see it talks about the Aurora fresco painted on the ceiling. Aurora, dawn, triumph of Apollo led by Aurora. Above the quadriga in the sky flies the Puto Phosphorus with a torch. Who is this Phosphorus with a torch? Well, I pulled that up. Remember, that's this little baby here. This is Aurora. Personification of dawn. This painting is loaded. And here is phosphorus. Now, we've covered the element phosphorus. Why? Because it is called the morning star, Lucifer. That's what it says right in the Wikipedia article for the element phosphorus. Why? Because it glows green when you add electricity to it. Phosphorus turns green, this weird green glow like the serpent, okay? Phosphorus is the morning star, the planet Venus, in its morning appearance, and are forms of the same name in the Greek dialects. The celestial object was named when stars and planets were not always distinguished with modern precision. I don't know if I agree with that. But they talk about this being the morning star, dawn bringer, Eusphorus, sometimes meant in English, which is not actually found in Greek literature, but would be the form of whatever that is. Light bringing, Dionysus. We've been talking so much about Dionysus. Pine torches. Remember raising Dion? We did a decode on that, and we showed you how that was really all about raising Dionysus. The Latin word Lucifer corresponds to the Greek, was used as a name for the morning star, and thus appears in the Vulgate. Now, some of you, I can hear it now. There's probably some atheists in the chat saying, well, Jesus was called the morning star too. Well, the book of Job clarifies all that there were many morning stars, not just one. There were many morning stars, and when there was unity in heaven, they all sang together. Look that up in Job. It says, when all the morning stars sang together in heaven. Okay? So what that means is that Jesus is one and Lucifer is the other. Now, you can argue and say, oh, Casey, well, that just means that he was referring to the good Lucifer in his painting. Here's the problem I have with that. All the other numerology, the decadence, this is not of Christ. Gold plated. He said, sell all that stuff. This is not of Christ. This is of the other Lucifer. And the 66th floor, I understand there's 66 books in the Bible, but there aren't supposed to be 66 books in the Bible. There's supposed to be more. Many were taken out. But they celebrate the fact that we've all been deceived into thinking that God put 66 books in the Bible. This is why this is on the 66th floor. Are you starting to understand there's a lot more to Donald Trump than meets the eye? He is part of biblical prophecy, and I'm not talking about in a good way. So, now you have the information. Now, there was more. Someone said that this is Eros, this statue here, which means like chaos and destruction or something like that. That'll be a different show. I don't want to go too crazy and give you too much information. But this statue here are more Greek gods, Eros and Psyche, I think they are, dancing together. Maybe we should look at that real quick. Make sure we're connected up here. Now, a couple things. We have another show coming up. Actually, Saturday, I have a premiere. I found a 2018 B movie that talks all about the Kahuna Cyrus. I couldn't believe it. Quarantine, infection, the whole 9 yards, you guys. So I put together a montage. I'm just going to upload that. It's pretty straightforward, but if you have questions on it, on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will do a follow-up live show, but this one's pretty straightforward. Now, let's look up Eros and Psyche. We also got more live shows. I think I already have 3 or 4 scheduled for next week. Eros and Psyche. So, here's the poem by Robert Bridges. Romantic and tragic themes, 1885. Synopsis. As Psyche, the youngest daughter of a petty Cretan king, grows in a full flower of womanhood, she becomes worshipped by the common people as the living apotheosis of Aphrodite. Aphrodite, noting her worshippers forsaking her temples, to instead ask for the prince's blessings, demands speedy vengeance. This is the sculpture in Donald Trump's 66th floor I can't even say it. 66th floor penthouse. It's a tongue twister. Commanding her own son, Cupid, for her purpose. So Cupid is Psyche's son. Aphrodite orders him to make the princess Psyche fall in love with some ugly, worthless vagabond. Cupid departs upon his mission. Cupid's capriciousness, his delight in making gods and men love someone unobtainable, is amply repaid by the fates, who now condemn him to experience the same. Arriving in Crete and seeing Psyche, Cupid himself falls helplessly in love with her, and resolves to marry her himself and protect her from his own mother's jealous ire. Cupid whisks his beloved Psyche away to a secret dwelling place, conjured into existence by his own divine powers. Here Psyche can remain in safety, being protected, watched, and served by friendly spirits. So I don't know what to make of that poem, but this poem contains all the characters that are in this particular thing here. Let's see Robert Bridges. This is the guy right here. Oh, go figure. He was born, or he died, on the 111th day of the year, which just so happens to be the mirror date of when the buildings came down. Unbelievable. Born in 44 and died. This is actually the day that Prince died. Oh, by the way, let's see here. Might as well get this tab out of the way. Got so many tabs pulled up, you guys. They came out with this beer the day before Prince died, and just still happens to be April 21st, the 111th day of the year, is also the Queen of England's birthday. Now, many of you that have not come to the channel don't know what mirror dates are. Mirror date is a date you take, like for instance, April 21st, it's the 111th day of the year. All you do is flip-flop that and you find the date in the calendar that has 111 days left in the year. That date just so happens to be the 11th day of September. This is called Purple Rain. This was a beer that was made the day before Prince died. It was made in England. This pub. This didn't get a lot of, they're saying that this didn't get a lot of press, but they're saying here is that there was no known association. They're denying all ties to this. They just said it was just a fluke accident. But I don't believe in accidents. This is Purple Rain. Okay. We all know, too, that the Queen on her birthday had everything decked in purple, which takes a lot of planning, weeks and weeks in advance. The cakes were already made probably the day before, or the night before, or weeks before, even a week before, and put in a freezer. Who knows? But she had purple cakes. Just so happens, too, that Prince's chef once was the chef to the royal family and the Queen. These are not coincidences. It just so happens to die on her birthday. Weird. So, that's what's going on with that. So that pretty much covers the show for today. I've got a headache and I can't find any Advil. So, I guess I'm just going to have to drink some water. Let's go in the chat here for just a little bit. Someone said Q is an IBM quantum computer. Yeah, somebody found that. It's like an IBM computer. It's called Q. I'm wondering if that whole thing is just some kind of a artificial intelligence. Sure is doing a great job of deceiving people. Keeping everybody asleep, running interference for Trump, while he continues to tighten the reins of the New World Order. Nothing's changed. In fact, everything's gotten worse. If you want to look at the true indicators of freedom, liberty, and all of those things. Okay. What other live shows do we have? We're going to be doing a live decode on this entire movie. I think this one I'm going to do like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week. This entire movie called The Pied Piper of Hamelin. And this guy slithers out of the tree. We're going to decode this entire film live. I've only seen the first 3 minutes of this film. But in the first 3 minutes, he slithers down out of the tree like Satan himself, coming down out of the tree of life, or the tree of good and evil. Show you that real quick. And this will give you an idea of what we're dealing with. Unbelievable. And that's Pan, you guys. That's Pan. All right. Bush calls the Queen Mom. That's interesting. All right. Jesus is the true Morningstar. Yes, and he's different than Lucifer. Don't let atheists try to pin you in a corner. When you first hear that, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Then they're going to show you the verse, and then you're not going to know what to say unless you listen to the show. You go to Job, and you see that there are multiple morning stars, not just one, and there used to be unity before God kicked one of the morning stars out of heaven, which was Lucifer. Do you see the juxtaposition of how all this works? Think about this. Lucifer fell from heaven. Jesus chose to come down from heaven. they are really actually kind of, I don't want to say related to one another, but in a spiritual sense, they're opposites of one another. Lucifer represents evil. Christ represents the answer to evil, to get rid of evil from the universe, right? So they're opposites of one another. Lucifer fell, Jesus came down through choice and out of love. The opposite of selfishness and desire and lust and all those things, right? And they were both morning stars. And now it's interesting. There's two morning stars in the heavens, and I've had my theories about this. And whatever you want to call them, you don't have to call them planets. I think that they're stars that have fallen from the firmament. They're floating around up there. They're the empty shells of the spiritual manifestation of spiritual creatures. They're like the physical manifestation, or you can call it a light, or whatever you want to call it. But they're up there. We see them with telescopes. It's something, whether it be a light or some kind of a body. If it were a planet, I don't think it's nearly as big as they tell us it is, or nearly as far away. Anyway, there are two morning stars, Venus and Mercury. Why do they call them morning stars? Because in the morning you see them shining on the horizon. That's why they call them morning stars. And the only reason why they do that is because they're the planets that are closest to the horizon in the ecliptic. Here's a little astronomy lesson for you. So, as the sun rises or the sun sets, you'll see them, the light of the sun reflecting off of these, creating what looks to be a morning or an evening star, Venus and Mercury. Now, it's interesting. I think Venus was actually the empty hull or shell of the Son of God, Christ. And I believe it was the star of Bethlehem that guided the three wise men. It dropped Jesus off, and then it continued floating around in the sky. And I believe the other morning star, Mercury, is the devil. Why? It's closest to the sun, closest to Apollo. We're told it has an 88-day year, an 88-day cycle around the sun, solar cycle. This is what we're told. And Mercury represents commerce. He's the god of commerce, marketing. The word marketing comes from Mercury. Mercenary comes from Mercury, because it's all about money and commerce, keeping you busy. So, the hottest planet, Mercury, is probably Lucifer. Do you see now how everything starts to make sense? Now, that's just my take on it. I can't prove any of this, but through observation and study, this is what I've found over the years. So, I wanted to explain that to you. I believe those objects are inside of the firmament, floating around up there. That's what I believe is going on. The stars are behind it. I think the Bible says they're in the firmament, the stars, and then the planets are floating around below. Now, we did what I call the inner eye cosmology or Earth model. And basically, we look at the anatomy of the eyeball, and it looks a lot like what our universe and the firmament really looks like. I believe God modeled it after our eyeball. That's why he says, the apple of my eye and all this stuff, right, in the Bible. So, there's something to that. Now, other channels have picked up that inner eye model, and that's great. I just really wish that they would give a shout out of where they got the information. Seems a little suspect to me, but it is what it is. It's not my information, it's just the truth, but I just worry that people are going to use the information and try to twist it somehow. We don't want them doing that. Now, apparently, miraculously, Israel has found a breakthrough with the kahuna Cyrus treatment. Somebody sent this to me. So, it is what it is. Interesting. Problem, reaction, solution. Don't be deceived. Okay, I'm back in the chat. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for showing up. We will see you guys, I guess, on the premiere tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. For those of you that can make it. You're not going to want to miss that. It's crazy. They actually use children, and they become the metaphor for the Kahuna Cyrus. And they actually name it by name. And they actually are used as population control to kill their parents. It's crazy. And then at the end, they find out that the aliens were actually their parents, the ones that they had been bred to fight against. They talk about gene splicing and all kinds of other crazy stuff. There's been rumors that this new, what are we going to call it? Thing that they try to give us so that we don't get sick is supposed to actually alter our DNA. Have you guys heard that rumor? Well, you're not going to want to miss tomorrow's premiere. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.